Alrighty, Eric Folsom is a metalsmith, artist, and jeweler. Ready to go into the first slide? Don't worry about it, Eric.
Okay.
Okay, and I have a question here. Okay, I've got a little comment already from one of our folks before you start talking. She just says, I am thrilled and honored to have acquired Pelicanos. So the woman who bought your first piece, Leslie Ikowitz, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I was going to tell people that it's sold and I didn't get a chance to buy it myself. But so Eric, go ahead and show us that first piece.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Diane. I'm sorry about this delay, folks. This isn't usually what I'm doing during the day, is working on a computer.
Worry.
But this is the piece Pelicanos that was in the Spirit Animal Show. I grew up in Gulfport, Florida. We spent a lot of time on the Gulf of Mexico, and I would always look out over towards the sunset. And one time we always got National Geographic, but one issue was about the Olmec heads over on the other side of the Gulf. And that just really impressed me, knowing that there were these ancient Mexican artwork that was on the other shores looking our way. And it always intrigued me. And this is kind of this was inspired by the Mexican line. I love that Mesoamerican line, the early Mexican artwork that's over on the other side of the Gulf and all through Mexico. But this is the piece. It's the sun shining on a cloud with some pelicans flying underneath it. And it was really a joy to make. It felt very good to be making it. And the sun, my wife says, why does the sun always look kind of angry? It's not really angry. It's just, I think of the sun as a superb athlete that is just constantly given its maximum amount of performance. And that's what I notice on like bicycle racers who are going up mountains. They have that same little oval mouth. They're trying to perform. The sun's just performing at a high rate. This is a serving piece. I was invited to make some pieces for a show that was a potter had serving sets, and he wanted some serving ware. And I made these botanicals. I call that the botanical set. It's bronze, but I also had a friend who was doing silver plating at the time. He plated it, and I thought it was a pretty good look. And they're very functional. Everything I make is functional, and I'd like for it to be used. And this is also a serving set. I don't know if you can see the whole piece, if I have to go up and down with it, or can you see the whole piece on the screen?
Not quite. And I'm trying to adjust something. One of the people commented that he's seeing the image as a thumbnail and you as more full screen. And
that would be much better to see the other thing full screen.
Yeah,
I guarantee you.
So I don't know if you have to, on your desktop, have to hit a button to expand your view, but I'm going to just look into my view and see what's happening here.
I think I have it expanded.
Okay, now
as far as I can.
I just clicked mine as a different view. So let me look at the chat here. So somebody is saying it may have been something he did. So right now, as I speak, I'm seeing me as a little thumbnail, and I'm seeing you having to scroll up a bit to see the full image. But
this is a treble and a bass clef. I was at a point in my life where I always had my metal shop set up, but I had a day job that I was unable to really do much of my metal work. So for an artistic outlet, I started taking piano lessons, and I made this for my teacher, which inspired more serving sets. This one is a tribute to Neil Armstrong. I'd always wanted to make a moon and a sun serving set piece. And I was in my shop. I had all the elements laid out on my desktop. And just as I was getting ready to put them together, the radio announcer came on and said that Neil Armstrong had passed away. And it just felt like it's a very strong moment to me. So I made this and dedicated it to Neil Armstrong. My niece is a chef, and when she graduated from chef school, I thought I would make her something that she could use in her profession. So I made her this fish server. It's got the drain holes there along the dorsal fin and the eye and the mouth. But you can just scoop your fish fillet right up off the grill and present it onto a nice platter with that. That's bronze and copper. The dark part is copper, and the tray itself is made of bronze. A woman came to me and said that her daughter was marrying her daughter, an actress, was marrying a movie director, and she wanted something that would show the theater arts. So I made a comedy and tragedy serving set, put some copper curtains around it. And all of this stuff is functional. It's made to be used. It should last for thousands of years. There's a good chance it could last for thousands of years, so it might get a lot of use. And this is the latest serving set that I made. There was a Soviet artist who, in order to be able to do his work and not have to do the propaganda end of the work, he got into making real geometric kind of forms and shapes, and was able to be a pretty free-speaking artist in a very restrictive world. And I always appreciated Kazimir Malevich. A French friend of mine sent me a whole box full of steel corkscrews, and he said, "Come on, make something out of these." So I started making some corkscrews. That's a fish mounted on a piece of bronze, and it's totally functional. Another corkscrew is Sailing to Vinland. It's a little Viking ship, and the cork conveniently fits in that little area right underneath the sail. That just kind of happened, and I thought it was kind of nice. It acted as a little lifeboat for the tiny Vikings. If they fell overboard, they could jump on the cork. And this is a bowl looking straight across and into a bowl. It could also be used as a colander, I guess, for some things. But what I did was make 30 or 40 little fish and attach them together, just freehanding them and trying to get the shape of a swimming ball of fish. And I think that it turned out okay. I was very happy with it. And this is what looks like 24 is the astronomical and astrological symbol for the planet Jupiter. And so I took a bicycle cog and made a little representation of Jupiter there. Bicycles have a lot of meaning to me. When I left my home in Gulfport, Florida, I moved to Washington, D.C. because I knew there were galleries and libraries, and every organization I cared about was there, Audubon Society, National Geographic. I moved to Washington, D.C. and worked there as a bicycle messenger. While I was learning my trade, I would ride bicycles. And I've ridden many, many, many miles on bicycles. And so I made a little representation here of Jupiter within that atmosphere of a bicycle cog. And being alive at this time in history, we're so fortunate we can look at the images from space telescopes. And I'm always looking at the images that come back from the telescope, and also I follow some of the satellites that are going through our solar system, chasing comets and asteroids and moons of other planets. This is kind of inspired by something I saw, the space telescope, an exploding galaxy somewhere in the universe. And this is also, I like to look at the sky. I like to know what's going on in the sky. And last year, we had the Great Conjunction, which Jupiter and Saturn came so close together that they almost touched on the winter solstice. But the title of this piece is Syzygy. And I was reading the New York Times sports section, and I saw the banner said, Syzygy in the outfield will help our team win the World Series. And so Syzygy, I looked that up, and what Syzygy is, it's a great crossword puzzle word and a good Scrabble word, but it means a planetary alignment, an alignment of stars. And one of those New York teams thought they had a great alignment of stars, but they didn't go anywhere that year. But that's the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, as they're going around the sun. It's about 20 inches by 20 inches. This is a hair chignon. It's reminds me of a sun shower, so I called it a sun shower. It's got a little cloud, and the tines look like, to me, they look like rain.
I'm gonna pause for a second here, Eric. Mark has his hand raised, so I think he might want to ask a question in the
Hi, Mark.
Mark, let me unmute you. If you can't unmute yourself, I'll try to do that. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
There you
Yeah,
go.
hi, Mike. Mark.
Yeah, hi there. Actually, that was from when we first got started. I was having problems with the images, and I was trying to. So no, just keep going.
Everything's going okay now?
Yeah.
I wish I knew how to alleviate the problem that we've had, but I'm not that adept at these sort of things.
He's an artist and not necessarily a techie. It might be because what he's working with is a PDF file, not a traditional slideshow file. So that's why it's scrolling rather than page by page. But by scrolling it slowly, you're able to see the full image. And just for those who are on here, this will be also put on YouTube. These recordings are put on the DFAC website, and you can click in. So if any of you have to leave early for some reason, it will be, in a few days, it'll be posted up on YouTube. So go ahead, Eric, and continue on.
Well, I want to thank Dunedin Fine Arts Center, and also the Sterling Society, and you, Diane, and Nathan, and Catherine, and all the people who have made this possible.
Okay.
This piece is called Sailing to Venus, and I was trying to make kind of a Art Deco-y kind of piece. There's a piece, the center piece on top is a Carillion bead, and the piece on the bottom is copper. But it just reminded me of one of the satellites that's on its way to Venus. A lot of stuff going on out there. And this is a tree topper. It's another inspired by things going on in space. Looks very nice sitting on top of the tree. These are 4 bracelets, pretty representative of my style over the years. The piece on the left is woven bronze and copper. The second piece to the left to right, the second piece is inspired by the Parker Solar Probe that's flying around the sun right now, and that sort of represents the heliosphere, the atmosphere of the sun. The third piece, I call that Olmec Eyes. It is inspired by the ancient Mexican line, and the piece on the far right I call Sperryville, because that is the first style of bracelet I ever made when I finally started making jewelry back in the 70s. I fell into I had no life plan. I moved to Washington, D.C. to be a bike messenger because there was so much art there that I wanted to learn about. And while I was living in Sperryville, I found a group of artist crafts people who were living in the mountains. It was an arts and crafts commune. And there were 3 guys that worked with metal. And one of those guys offered me an apprenticeship. And I ended up working with George Anderson, and he taught me how to use a torch and how to sell the work, how to do shows. He was a really good mentor and a good friend. The commune was on, we shared property with the Shenandoah National Park. So it was a wonderful place to live for 10 years. I could walk out my door and I was in the national park. This is a bracelet. This was an early bracelet. I put this in here just because it's a much older piece. I love the way the copper turned out. It looks like the surface of Mars or something. And this is the chaos of production, getting ready for a show. I just one day just laid out a bunch of earrings that I'd made that day just to put them in an array and kind of made a little composition with them. This is all different earrings. A lot of these are in these styles are in the gift shop at Dunedin. This piece was a commission piece. A woman just wanted a piece, gave me complete carte blanche, and I just want a piece of jewelry. So I've been wanting to make this necklace for many years, and this is very inspired by that same ancient Mexican line, the clasp up on the upper left, the little sun, and that owl. Just looks to me like the line that maybe the Native Americans might have used. It's called El Sueño del Buho, the dream of the owl. And I've always loved birds, so I've started making these pelican pendants, and I like the strength of the pelican. It's such a gangly bird when it's on shore, but when it takes to the air, it's just such a master of flight. And they're so beautiful to watch. And I was glad that I was able to, I feel like I kind of captured some of its delicacy. My friend pointed out that the belly of the pelican looks like there's a fish inside of it. So I kind of like that too. There's the eyeball of the fish. This was a little hinged box. It took me many years to figure out how to make a hinged box, but this one, I finally figured out how to do it. I was trying to do a Art Nouveau kind of piece. So this is what I came up with. And that was several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I believe that piece is. This is a better view of the hinge, the type of hinge I've developed. And it really changed the whole process of making boxes for me. Because before I was just really experimenting with all kinds of different things that didn't quite work, or they were too hard to realize. This one came to me one night and I'm very happy with it. In fact, I was able to send a box to my mentor because he had also tried making hinges for years. He didn't go to art school or anything. We were kind of self-taught, just figuring out how to do this stuff. And I was very happy when I was able to send George a hinged box. This is a small sculpture. It's about 8 inches in length. My wife and I met in Washington, D.C. in 1987 when there was a hatch of the cicadas, the billions and billions of cicadas. They came up again this past summer and we went up to see them. But I made this for her. It's kind of, when we hear cicadas, it's like they're singing our song, because that's when we met and how we, when we were getting to know each other, the cicadas were very much in the picture. And so that was for Janet.
I love that piece.
I do. Thank you very much. I do too. This is a sconce. Found a piece of driftwood, looked pretty cool, and I thought I would make a lizard to fit on it. The lizard's about 18 inches long, and it hangs on a wall, obviously, and it can give a little light down a passageway. And this is a called Weathered Turtle. It's made out of copper and bronze. I wanted to make a turtle. And I said, okay, well, what does a turtle look like? You know, and I kind of started drawing some pictures and said, well, I know they had those big scales up there in their carapace. So I started looking at them and began, made a fairly good drawing. And then I just started cutting out the pieces in the carapace and putting them together and came up with this little turtle. He sits in our fire pit and changes colors every time we have a fire. He'll have a different patina the next day. It's kind of neat. He's got a real life of his own. And this is the basic tools I use right here. I have my torch over here, all these pliers and different diameters of rod that I use, oxygen acetylene torches. Got my fan here that exhausts everything for me. So this is something I made last week. I thought it might help in just seeing how all this stuff is made. So I laid out this beginning of a rectangle, got everything square. And with the acetylene torch, I don't use any kind of solder. There's a flux right in the flame. So I made the rectangle and I started adding little triangles to it. The process, you melt the joint. You actually turn the metal into liquid, and while that's liquid, in my right hand, I have a piece of rod that I melt at the same time, and the three of them melt simultaneously. Then you get the heat away very quickly so that it doesn't turn into a puddle, which often happens, but not so much anymore, but it still can happen. But the torch is 7,000 degrees. The metal melts at about 1,800 degrees. So you have to work very fast, and there's no erasing. I feel like I'm drawing when I work with the torch. And here I am adding little circles into those triangles that I just put on the rectangle. And the design is starting to unfold here. And here you can see those joints. This is the backside of this. They're the little joints. You can see that they're not filled in. I have to go back, and that's where you have to melt. Right at the joint, you melt it, it turns into liquid, and while it's liquid, you add a third rod of the same material, liquid, get the heat away from it, and it solidifies into something like this. So it's a clean joint on the side, and you can grind it down and then polish it. And this is the bracelet about ready to be shaped. I call this latest piece, and first piece. This bird is one of the first pieces I ever made, and it hangs out in my shop. But this was just the latest piece at that moment. I just put the two of them together in a picture. And here's a heater. It's out a lot of heat, 35,000 BTUs. It's very hot. I put that band of the bracelet on there, and it gets so hot. It's like taffy on a hot summer day. It just droops. It'll sag for a few seconds. And while it's red hot, I pick it up and I drape it over this bracelet mandrel, and then shape it up. And that is the finished product right there. And that's, I think, the end of the slides.
Well, I know we had a number of comments in the chat, mostly comments complimenting your work. I love it, love it, love it. Leslie Ikowitz, who bought your piece. I'm not quite sure what that last comment was. I think she said sexy. So I assume she's referring to the bracelet itself. But I don't know if folks have questions about some of the specifics. One question that did come up, Eric, and I think it was from Leslie, who bought your Pelicanos piece. How many of the pieces that you've shown us are still available, or are they ones that if somebody wanted the exact same necklace you made for a particular person, you do commission work? So I know that was one of the questions as to where do you have your work besides the Art Center, and are certain pieces still available?
A lot of these pieces are still available. They might be at the Florida CraftArt Gallery in St. Petersburg, or also here in Gulfport Custom House Decor, and Dunedin Fine Art Center has some of my work. But I do take commissions. Every piece is one of a kind. Nothing is cast or made from any kind of mold or anything. So I could pretty much repeat a similar. It wouldn't be exact, but it would be much like. Yes, I do take commissions, and I can make what anything anybody would like.
I know Eric has mentioned that he does not have a website like many other artists do, but I think it'd be great if you wanted to share your email with the folks so that they want to follow up and contact you about a piece.
Yes.
And also, I'll mention to the audience that at the end of each of the CNC Coffee and Conversation presentations, these are recorded, and then in a few days, it'll be posted on the DFAC website. In the top banner, there's a place where you can click on a YouTube icon. And so periphery things at the beginning of the talk, like my just chatting with people and stuff, gets edited by Ken Hannon. But the core of the presentation will be available to look at again on YouTube. So, and if anybody wants to either use the raise hand or just unmute yourself to ask questions, I'm looking at another chat in here and that last one was simply from Catherine, of course, at the Art Center. Wonderful work, Eric. We're honored to share your work at DFAC. So that's from our curator. Yes, thank you, Catherine. And I know Danielle Conti signed on earlier. Danielle was the manager at the shop, and she might have been the first person who brought Eric's work into the gift shop at DFAC. So I don't know if you're still on, Danielle, but hello to you on the West Coast. Danielle moved to Santa Monica, California when the Art Center shut down due to COVID. And so, but I did notice that she signed on, so I hope she's still there and heard our hello. So anybody else have some questions about a particular piece? Do you want a custom Christmas tree topper or?
Yes, Eric, hi, thank you for your generosity and sharing your work with us today. I'm a big fan. Even before I knew I was, I bought a pair of your earrings 10 years ago. And now I just got Pelicanos. So I also just want to quickly digress and say I love your sweater or your sweatshirt, whatever you have happening there. It's very cool. And I'm also curious as to whether you work with fine metals also, gold and platinum, or if you prefer bronze and copper, and if you could share a little bit of your thought process with us about that.
Well, I use gold. Danielle actually gave me a very good critique one time when I was bringing in some earrings. She said, these earrings are so nice. Why do you have these crummy little imported ear wires on there? So at Danielle's advice, I started making my own ear wires out of gold, which that's really about all I have worked with gold. I made a wedding ring for somebody, but I haven't been able to really experiment with it because it's an expensive material to just with bronze and copper. I go oops and just throw it in the trash can and throw it in the collection bin. But
and what drew you to metal?
I would use gold. I have some gold that I got recently that I'm sitting on the fence about starting to try. So
all right,
I use bronze and copper. I'm very comfortable with it. I've done some silver, but the bronze and copper just works really well with the tools that I have and the knowledge that I have. But I'm going to try some new stuff.
Good for you.
I'm looking back through the chat here to see if there are any other questions. Mostly what I'm seeing are just comments about loving your work. And so,
thank you.
Okay. And you've already mentioned the other locations where your work is available.
Yes.
So that's good to know. And I assume we'll continue to have your works at the DFAC gift shop and in our exhibits.
I hope so.
Yes, yes. Okay. And if anybody else wants to unmute themselves and ask a question or comment. And Catherine, I think, is just saying she hopes so also that you'll continue to have works with us, Catherine Bergman, our curator.
Thank you.
So, okay. Alrighty, I'm clicking through these. Let's see, one new message. I don't see any other questions in here. So dfac.org, in a few days, the YouTube will be up. Leslie is just once again saying how much she enjoyed the presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
And Danielle, a little one here. Hello, everyone. She misses us. Danielle Conti, for those of you who might have met her in the Art Center's gift shop. We miss you too, Danielle. It's a different world here, still with the COVID limitations that we have, but we're all hoping to get back to grand opening parties for exhibits and live music and catered events. So sometime down the road, we'll be live again, hopefully at the Art Center for coffee and conversation. Okay, I don't know if anybody else has, nope, nothing else to add. Eric, so why don't you, if you don't mind, providing your email contact information for those who want to follow up with you, maybe commission a piece? If you could,
Okay.
yeah, give us your email address.
It's a long one. It's E.A. Folsom, Metalsmith @gmail.com.
Okay. And for those who didn't write it down quickly enough, it will be recorded on the YouTube video that will be up in a few days on the dfac.org website. So in case you didn't write it down, just go back into the website and you'll be able to hear it again.
And the gallery shop has some of my cards with all that info on there also.
That is right.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about my work. And thank you, Sterling Society and Dunedin Fine Arts Center and everybody behind the scenes that makes all of this stuff happen. I really appreciate it. And
thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Catherine just posted an announcement here. Apparently there's another virtual presentation coming up discussing Anne Hieronymus's work. So the Art Center is really trying to keep a lot of information out there of what's going on with us in the virtual world via special interviews with artists and the coffee and conversation. So those of you who still have some free time, go on to the dfac.org website and look for the next thing coming up with Zoom, Zoom, Zoom is what Catherine added. So everything is done Zooming now.
Well, thank you so much. As an artist, I really appreciate it. And other artists I know really appreciate what the art centers are doing for us and keeping us going during this hard time. So many opportunities given to keep making our art, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Eric. I know it was a little short notice when I put out the invitation because of a last minute change with somebody else, but it's been fun working with you, and don't worry at all about the little technical glitches. We'll all get better at it in the future. So
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thanks everybody for coming today. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's a beautiful one. I'm going out to work in my yard, getting out of my dressy clothes and going to work.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Everyone take care.